couple examples of honey pots here. You can kind of make these things as complicated or as simple as you want. This one, I kind of went for a cartoon sort of look of a honey pot, where the whole thing is beaded. And so I beaded the whole thing, and then I've got a little bead in resin in the lid, and a honey dipper. And I'll pass these around. And the second one is walnut, and it also has a bead. This one's just epoxied on, and a dipper. They're finished on the inside with epoxy resin. Okay, to make one of these, you can start with a blank that is approximately 4 by 4 by 9 or so inches long, like this. Well, through the magic of high-speed cameras, I'm going to go look. Okay, the high-speed camera changed it, and it's now a round piece of maple. So it bleached it out, turned it around, and put a tenon on each end. Okay, so this is where we're going to start. If I'm lucky, it will still turn fairly true. We'll find out. Not bad. I can take that. Okay, you know, the typical thing is 2/3, 1/3. 2/3 for the body, 1/3 for the top. Doing a vase or almost anything in life, it's 2/3, 1/3. And that holds true for this too. Bearing in mind, if you're going to put a handle on the top or some kind of a knob on the top, that's part of the top third, so you've got to allow for that. So if you measure this thing and get out a pencil, all right, it's 8 inches long. What's 1/3 of 8? Anybody? What's 1/3 of 8 inches? 2 1/4? No, I don't think so. That doesn't sound right. 2 13. Okay, we're going to call that 2 1/2. Okay, we're going to call it 2 1/2, and I'm going to drop down a little bit because I've got this tenon on here. So I'm going to mark a line at 2 1/2. Okay, so that's where. Is 2 1/2? Does everybody agree that 2 1/2 is close enough? Can we get that? All right. Okay. Now, if you look at those things that are passed around, you'll see that the lid actually goes over the top. So there's a tenon basically on the body, and then the lid goes over that. Now there's 2 ways you can do this lidded box. You can make the tenon on the top or the tenon on the bottom. With the honey pot, I think it needs to be on the bottom because otherwise you're going to have honey dripping on that lid, on that lip. So what we need to do is we need to get some speed up on this thing. Okay, and we're going to part into this thing the depth that I think that tenon needs to be. Okay, and I've got to make it wider. So I'm going to make it about the width of, double the width of this parting tool. Okay, so that being the bottom, this being the top, that means this part here is connected to the bottom. Got it? Follow me? Okay. So now what I can do is I'll shape this thing a little bit while it's still connected together. And I'm just going to round over the bottom. This is a half-inch spindle gouge, or 3/8 spindle gouge, I'm sorry. And then I'm going to round over the top. But I'm going to turn this down a little farther because I want to leave enough room up there on the top for that knob that we'll get to eventually, I hope. Unless this thing just all becomes sawdust on the floor. So I've got a tenon up there which gives me part of a knob, but not enough. And actually, you can do it two ways, and if those two that are passed around, one of them doesn't have a knob. One, you just lift the lid off, and then the other one's got the knob on it. So I'm going to flatten off the top a little bit to give me a little space up there. And I think that's about enough to make the knob on the top. But I'm not going to do that right now. That wasn't very good. Let's try this again. Okay, so again, this is a very simple shape. I think with honey pots especially, you don't want the inside of the thing to have any crazy shapes in it because you'll never be able to clean it, and the honey's going to be, it's going to be a mess. So the inside, I think, should be pretty much straight-sided. And the outside, you can do some things. You can do, obviously, you can do the beading. You can do texturing. You can do a lot of different things. But to make this demo at a reasonable length of time, we're going to keep it nice and simple. So now, I'm going to take, I hope I'm going to take my thin party tool. I know I had it here, didn't know. There it is. Oh, I can't find it. Okay, so now I'm going to part the top off. And I'm going to part it off. So, okay. I'm going to part it off so that I've got that tenon on the bottom. And I'm coming in at kind of an angle so that I've got enough room to keep the tool in there. And then you can just kind of wiggle it back and forth so that you don't jam, because you can actually, Camille, can you get a parting tool stuck in a piece of wood? You can. I mean, to the point where it'll come over like this and swing all the way around and catch the tool rest on the other side. So if you're only going in the width of the parting tool, my suggestion is you shimmy it. And I'm running about 1,700 RPMs right now, and I don't want to part through this thing at 1,700 RPMs because I really don't want that thing hitting me right in the forehead. So we're getting fairly close, so we'll get this thing down to something sane, like 500 or 600 maybe. 800, that's close enough. And I don't really have to part this all the way through. If I do, I do. If I don't, I don't, because none of that's going to show when we get this thing hollowed out. So just give it a little twist. And it rips up the grain, but it doesn't matter because it's going to get turned away. Okay? So that's the top. Set that away. We get rid of the live center. And probably lose stuff that I just had in the drawer. Where'd I put it? Yeah, chalk. Where's my chalk? Chalk, where's my chalk?
It's not in the bag.
I'm sorry, what'd you say? Did somebody see my chalk? I had a chalk here. Okay. Chalk. I didn't lie, it was here. Alright, so we're going to start by drilling this thing out. I'm going to use two different size drill bits. This one is 1 1/8. They're both carbide Forstner bits.
So why two? Why not just one big one?
It's very hard to drill that big. The drill heats up like crazy. It's really slow going. So it's easier if you use 2 or even 3. And depending on how this turns, I may use 3. We'll see. Okay. Now, anybody know what speed should we use a Forstner bit at? 500? If it's small. Okay. What if it's 1 3/4 inches or 2 3/8? Yeah, it's pretty slow because it's a load on the blade, it heats up like mad, and even carbide bits, you can go. Okay, so we're going to take this thing down to, 500 or so, something in that range. Grab the chuck and get the tool rest out of the way so my hand doesn't get pinched in there if something goes bad. And grab a hold of the chuck. And bring it in. Now this is a small Forstner bit. It's cutting really fast. Okay. So when you come in, you got to bring it back out and clear the chips and go some more. One thing nice about the carbide Forstner bits is they do a pretty good job of clearing those bits. You can see them flying out of there until you get in fairly deep, and then it becomes more important to back it out. Because they'll build up more friction, more heat. Heat kills bits, and you're more likely to get the thing to catch. It could be ugly. We try to avoid ugly. That's as deep as I can go with this bit. I do have one, but I don't have it here. So they don't work that well. They really don't.
No, they're not
No,
exactly.
they're okay if you start with the bit in the chuck and then go to the extension.
Yeah.
The extensions typically hold the drill bit in with an Allen screw or 2 Allen screws. Well, wait up here. This chuck key. 3rd try, I got it. I don't have any more tries. So okay, so it's warm, but it's not crazy hot. If this were not a carbide bit, you wouldn't be touching it. Okay, so now we're going to go up. Now this one is large enough that the chuck will actually fit in the hole. So this one I don't need to worry about an extension. But I need to think about depth. How deep do I want to drill this hole? Anybody? How deep do I want to drill this hole? Any guesses?
2.5 inches.
2.5 inches?
Half
Well,
inch from the bottom.
2.5 inches is to right there. So I think I probably want to go a little deeper than that.
Half inch from the bottom.
1/2 inch from the bottom. I'm on a tenon, so I don't need to worry about drilling into a recess. So I like to play it a little safer, say 3/4 of an inch or so from the bottom. Okay. The height is 5 1/4, so I can go to 4 1/2. Right now I'm at 2 3/4, so I got a good ways to go. And we'll bring this up. Now I'm going to slow it down a bit. We'll see how it goes. I'm about 350 now, and we'll just see how this does. I think I was a little too fast. The belt is on a high-speed pulley. Okay, I could change it to the low-speed pulley. What would that do?
You got more torque.
More torque. But I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to go a little bit smaller drill bit. And this demo is all about drilling, so I figured that out. We're not going to turn anything. You've seen all the turning I'm going to do. We're just going to drill. Okay, so a little bit of difference. This one is, what is it, 1 3/4. The first one was, what did I say, 2 3/8. So it's not way smaller, but it's definitely smaller. And I hit the speed and took it down to nothing, so we'll come back up to about 400. Yeah, that first flight is caused a little bit of a shock. But once you get in there, well, don't really too fast. This is a very nice blade, but it doesn't have the 3 horsepower that I used to at home. So. Clear some of that out. It's that first little cut that it doesn't like. Once it gets warm, it does pretty well. And really maintaining speed is running right at 300 RPM, so. Anybody remember how deep I said I was going to drill this?
4 3/4, right?
You think? Anybody know for sure? Okay. All right. Just testing. Okay, so now it's starting to build up wood chips, and that's why I was.
On top of
And I'm 2 3/4 now, so I got to go another 2 inches. I'm going to be drilling for a while. Anybody know any songs? Sing? Want to sing while I'm drilling? No? Do that thing slow down? So we've gone past that small hole that I drilled down the middle. So now it's cutting the full diameter of this drill bit. Which is asking quite a lot of it. And then once it starts to get loaded up with wood chips, about reached the limit of this. Has the warranty run out on the slate yet? Okay, so that's as far as I'm going. backed it off too far and pulled pulled right off the chuck for a second, or off the tailstock. It's hot now. I mean, it's hot. So we would set these paper towels on fire. Melt their table on the winch. Okay, so we'll put the big one back in. I told you this is just a drilling demo. I've been drilling for half an hour now. Okay, let's measure the depth again. 3.5. I got at least another inch to go. I know, it's really 1.25 inches.
Actually, you're 4 inches.
Well, yeah, but the bottom. See, so now though, I'm only taking like a 1/2 inch off of the side, so. So this will go a lot faster until I hit that bottom. Once I hit that bottom, I did. No, it's only cutting that much around the outside. When I hit the bottom of that other hole, I don't have to slow it down. So it's running about 350 RPMs right now. That's under load. Somewhere between 300 and 350, depending on what's going on.
I see smoke.
Oh, he's a wise guy. There's always one wise guy in this crowd. People with teeth. Well, we're not going anywhere. Okay, for purposes of this demo, we're not going all the way to the bottom. I know we've got 4.25 inches that we can do. We're not going to go that far. Or really wouldn't if we were going that. But I'd like to get down to the bottom, to the same depth I got with the other drill.
Have you ever calculated volume, like how big in diameter, how deep is
Not for these. I have for urns,
yeah.
but not. Okay. I'm done with the drilling for now. Get this out of the way. And I'm going to have to move you there a little bit. There we go. Pull the tailstock out of the way. One thing I found out the hard way on these tailstocks, when you set it down, if you set it in the same orientation it is on the lathe, it falls over. And when it falls over, it breaks the handle off the crank. So you don't want to set it down that way, unless you got stock in grizzly. Okay. All right, so I'm going to switch this for the smaller Okay, we're still not wide enough. This hole still isn't wide enough, so we're going to widen it out a little bit. And what do you think we should have for wall thickness on this?
1/8 of an inch.
Maybe a Moxie's gonna add some of that.
3/8.
I'd say since you gotta have the 10 in there, I'd say probably about a 1/2 inch.
Okay, a 1/2 inch total, yeah, but on the 10 it'll be less than that. It'll be probably 3/8 of an inch there, okay? So, my favorite tool for doing this is this carbide cutter on a very heavy bar. And this is a Jimmy Clues tool. I think it's made by Thompson, but this one was Jimmy Clues. So, we'll get this thing up, get some speed up now. And I think I'm too high here. With these cutters, my experience is you want the cutter right on center. You want to cut right on center, and I'm still just a little too high. And this thing is still making that noise, Bernie. Where is it? Is it right here?
Right here?
Oh, right in front of me, that's why I can't find it. Okay, so, bigger hammer? Good deal. Okay, so I can get it more speed. And I'm just going to widen this thing out. And this carbide cutter, you know, if you think about a traditional turning tool on a cutter, you've got a bevel. And you can take a pretty healthy cut with the bevel on a typical bowl gouge. Like this, you got this great big bevel here. Well, on these carbide cutters, you got a bevel, but you got no overhang on that bevel. So you can't take a very big cut. It's light cuts and easy cuts, and you'll get there. It just takes a little while. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put this thing down. And again, for this demo, I'm only worried about the depth of that biggest drill bit. That's all I care about for now. So what do I have for wall thickness? Keep losing this thing. So right now, yeah, I'm about, looks like 3/8 wall thickness. You know, that's this plus this, okay? And I think that's pretty good. So, all the way down with that, drill through all the way to the final depth, use that tool to go in. Then I recommend one of these inside scrapers for the rest of the cleanup of the cut. I also recommend an air compressor to blow the chips out. I'm not a very good air compressor. Barry.
Make a suggestion, we can find one of those puppet balls.
That would be good. It would.
Turkey bait.
Yeah. 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 Barry, you just got a project. Find us a turkey baster. Or a Dollar Tree, $1 and a quarter. Okay, so again, on center, okay, scraper parallel to the floor. And we just come in and clean this up. Okay, it's clean. Light cuts, clean it up. And it's not great, but it's not terrible. This is soft maple, so it tends to not have the cleanest cut in the world. Okay, so now we got the top to do. take this out. And grab the top. And this is why we have two tenons. Righty tighty, no, it's wrong way. Lefty tighty, righty loosey. Okay, so I want to hollow this out, but I want it to accept this. So I've got to turn to fit. So to start with, I can just take a waste away a lot of this wood that's in there, just to get it out of the way. And this time we've got a bowl gouge. Get some speed on there. Yeah, too tall now. I shouldn't do this. I should turn it off to adjust it to the west. And I've got a scar where I got 5 stitches from doing something stupid like that. The edge of that piece of wood is sharp as could be. Spinning at 1,500 RPMs. It's not quite, it's not fun. Doesn't feel very good, I can tell you. Now, 2 ways you can do this. You can do a push cut, or you can do a pull cut. Back and forth. Sometimes you'll find a piece of wood, you get a nice clean cut on a push cut and not on a pull cut, or you'll get a nice clean cut on a pull cut and not on a push cut. So make the decision. And also, as you get closer to your thickness on a pull cut, you're less likely to catch and come, across the end. All right, so. We see, doesn't fit. So I take off some more wood.
Use that mallet you made, little friend.
Yeah, I don't think so, yeah. And we're just going to try and sneak up on it. It's getting close. Set this over here.
Tight fit or?
No, loose fit. You don't want a tight fit. If you look at those others, you want to be able to just lift that lid off and thinking that there's maybe going to be some honey around the edge. If it's tight, you get that honey on there, it's going to glue that thing on. And you may never get it off. So now I'm trying to make that inside straight in so that it lines up with this. And it fits, but it's tight. So it's a little too tight, and it's not quite deep enough, I think, but. If you're smart, and I'm not always smart, but you take off a little bit and check, take a little more off and check, and you avoid having it so loose that it just falls out. And if this were a lidded box that you're showing other turners, it better be a snap fit. No customer you're ever going to want to sell this to cares about a snap fit. That's just a turner thing. A couple of years ago at a craft show, Tom Dolan and me sat in our booth for about 2 hours sanding the inside of lidded boxes because we had this lady that was an Oriental chef, and she wanted to put all of her little spices in some small lidded boxes, but she wanted to be able to take the lid off with one hand. She couldn't get the lid off any of them, so we sat there in the booth. There, that's pretty good. And actually, the grain will align too. You can spin this around, get the grain to align. Okay, so I'm going to take it a little deeper so that lid will fit all the way into there. The only real reason for hollowing out the lid, other than making it fit the base, is to take some of the weight off of it. Because if that was a solid piece of wood, it'd be pretty heavy. Okay, so it doesn't quite go in far enough. It's not straight, there's a lip down there. And you don't need a stopping point in there for this. This is what stops it from going in too far. Just lip right there. I'm just going to try and make that deepest part of that thing flat and match up to the opening. And you can turn this around and get the grain to line up right there. That lines up pretty good. Still doesn't go in quite far enough.
So is there any tricks for making the lid bigger if you by chance take too much off the inside?
If you make it too big, a bunch of coats of polyurethane. No, there's no way to, we haven't figured out how to put wood back on.
I don't know if they can soak in water or something. Or
Well, that would work temporarily, but as soon as it dried out, it'd be back where it was. Good try, Alan. Keep thinking about it.
But Tom, on a serious note, if you had to, you could probably cut a ring. It's going to spend some time doing it.
Yeah, you could cut a ring to make this big enough that you could make like a sleeve to go in there. You could. I think it would be a very, very delicate piece of wood. it'd be a challenge to do, but it might be a challenge that'd be worth trying. Okay. All right. Now, what I do a lot of times is I'll put a little bit of a round over on this, because you'll find that it rarely fits perfect. So instead of trying to make it fit perfect, make it visible. So on that edge and this edge out here, just round them over slightly. Get this tool rest to cooperate here. So, on just slightly, that's just like that. That's about all. And I've only done it on one side, but now you can see where it comes apart. That's okay. As far as I'm concerned, it's okay. All right, so that is basically what you do. Now, where's one of those samples at? Sir? Okay, we need the dipper, right? And in order for the dipper to fit in here, you got to do something with the lid and the body. And I'm going to use the other one as an example because I think this one fits a little better. One of the things that I learned is thin is good when it becomes a dipper, because you got to carve away that wood and this wood for that dipper to fit in there. So if you make it thin, you just got less you've got to carve away. Okay, so you could do that. I did it on this one on a oscillate spindle sander. If you got one of those, you just sand it away, and it makes it easy. Making sure that you line the grain up on the top and the bottom when you sand it away. And that makes it real easy. On the spindle sander, I just took it like this in my hands, and just went like that, and sanded it away. And on the inside, I actually put the spindle right up inside the piece, and went like that. Now, if you don't have a spindle sander, there's other options. A Dremel. You can do it with a Dremel and a sanding disc. And while it's on the lathe, you can just come in here and start sanding it away. It's going to take a little while. Okay?
You match
So-
mark the top and bottom mark? They also-
Yeah, that's where you, yes, I should, before I did it, I should have, but you could do the top and then line up the bottom with that same mark, okay? Either way. So it's gonna take a little while to sand that down enough for this thing to fit through here, okay? So you can do it with the sanding disc, you can carve it away. If you have,
If you tilt the table of your drill press, and just drill straight in like that,
well, I don't know how you would hold that thing though.
and you could clamp the top.
If
and
you
bottom.
could figure out a way to clamp it, yes, you could do that, okay? But you can also do it with a bit like this, you know, a burr, and you can carve it away and do the same thing on the inside. You know, these things are pretty aggressive, and they'll get away from you in a hurry if you're not careful. But you can do that. So there's multiple ways. And I would suggest, if you're going to use one of these, get some of this stuff out of the way and lock the spindle in place. I like to kind of use the tool rest to steady my hand. And you can come in here like this. And if I get some more speed up here. Still carve away pretty aggressively. Okay, any questions about how to do that? Already got it? Okay, so what do we got left to do?
Bottom,
What's that?
the bottom.
The bottom, right, same thing on the bottom. It's exactly the same thing, except you're going in this way. Okay? But we got the dipper. We need a dipper. I think we need a dipper. So now you get to do a spindle turning. So and really, it's smart to do the dipper before you don't want to finalize this, the width, the depth, the angle, until you get the dipper. Lefty loosey, that lefty tighty thing always screws me up. the tailstock back. Okay. Okay. All right, and I need a live center. Somehow I got that handle twisted around, but it'll be all right. Okay, I got a pretty long piece of wood here. I don't think I need quite this much, but that's what I got.
Well, there's a few pen blanks that people walked out with. If you want to get one of those, you can trace it.
Yeah, you got one?
I don't. I made sure.
That might be too short. That might be about right. Good. Okay, so find center. The scientific way.
There you go, you found it.
Yeah, spin it around a little bit. Adjust a little. I wasn't smart enough to bring it center. That's not going to work, is it?
You need to tighten up your
You have
tailstock.
to tighten your,
Wow. This is,
Always something.
still not bad.
yeah, no, but all right. This is my first day of turning, so
We can tell.
give me a break.
One break.
That is still not good. If you have a center finder, actually you can do it with a ruler too, just going corner to corner. But why do it the easy way when you can do it the hard way? All right. I think that's probably good. Let's see what happens. I declare that good enough. So first step in turning a spindle always is what? Make it round. And now the other thing is, the first step in turning is put your safety glasses on, especially when you got them sitting right there next to you. Better late than never, I guess, huh? Okay, so this is a giant spindle roughing gouge for rounding the smallest spindle. And, the smaller the spindle, the faster the blade speed. So I'm running at 1700. I could easily be running a lot faster. And I will be in a minute. We'll get it round. And if you ever listen to Paul's spindle rounding demonstration, is don't do all your work here in the middle, because when you dull that, you got to sharpen the whole tool. So use the whole tool. And when you get it close to round and you want to get it straight across, these edges, this one and this one, are almost perfectly straight. So you can go across like this. I'm not to that point yet. But So now I'm going to use that flat part. And that should be pretty good. Might not be perfect. It's not out here. I can see out here there's some problems, but a little better. I lost the honey dipper now. There it is. Okay. Anybody got any idea what the easiest way to cut the grooves in there is? Yeah, thin parting tool. So I'm just going to kind of ignore the end of this thing for now. I'm not going to worry about the end. I'm just going to get these grooves in here. And I think there should be at least 4. 5 is good, but at least 4. So I want to start it far enough from the end that I know when I round over this end, I'm not going to have a hole from that live center there. So I'm going to start it right about here. A little more speed. And how deep do you go in? I don't know, not very. The deeper you make it, the more honey they're going to get. But I'll tell you what, if you dip that in a honey pot, you're going to get a lot of honey. And now how do you space them? Here's how I space them. I take my parting tool, I put it right next to that groove, and I just touch it. And now it gives me a line that tells me my next groove is right there. And you can see the inside of that. You want to go the same depth, more or less. So you can just watch that. And again, touch the tool, make the mark, cut it into the same depth. Rinse and repeat. Okay, now one thing I want to look at before I go any farther is we're working with this pie. And this dipper is obviously long enough for this pot, although we got to go deeper on this. I still haven't got the final depth, so I've got to go about a ½ an inch deeper, I think. So that means I need that much less, or that much longer of a dipper. So I need a dipper that doesn't need to be as long as this one, because this one, well, it's about the same, isn't it? So I need a dipper about the same length as this one. Put this one back together. It probably doesn't need to be quite that long, but close. And I think I have just about enough wood here to do that. Yeah, we'll be close. Okay. So now I need my spindle down. I got 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4. Yeah, the bottom one. Yeah, yeah. Because from here, I'm going to start the handle. I'm going to start bringing it in. Now, kind of traditionally, if there is such a thing, on these honey dippers, there's some sort of a bead or something there. The only purpose for it, and I don't think it actually is a good purpose, is that if you tip the thing up like this, the honey doesn't run out of your hand. It kind of catches at that point. So usually they've all got some kind of a bead there. We're going to put it right about there. And if you're Jerry, you do this with a skew. But I'm not Jerry. And skews don't like me, so. If you're good with a skew, that's the way you do it. You'll get a much nicer cut. You'll have a whole lot less sanding to do. And all will be good in the long run. But, you know, whoever named the skew the double can opener, I think was in the right direction. One day maybe I'll figure out how to use the thing. And if you want to, you can embellish this thing. You can put some burn lines in it. You can do almost anything to it. And also on the end, there's going to be another little knob. And I guess that's just to keep it from slipping out of your hand. I don't know. That's just the way they make them.
This thing's getting dull. Probably blown it off, so go back there. Okay, so, anybody want to see a burn line? Anybody not know how to do a burn line? Okay, we'll do a burn line. Actually, we'll do a couple of them. A detail tool, point of the skew, anything that's got a point that's not going to run away from you on it. Straight in like that. They're usually done in pairs or 3 at a time.
Something whizzing around here that I don't need. Stick there. Clean this up just a little bit. And a burn wire. Okay, burn wires are called burn wires because they get hot. Okay, you need some speed on the lathe, and you're going to put this thing in there. You don't want to wrap a burn wire around your fingers like this because it'll cut your fingers too. So you want handles on it of some sort. Okay? It's just a matter of getting it into that groove, kind of wrapping it around, and it's smoking, so you're done. Go to the next one. It smokes, you gotta burn. No, I've never used linoleum. I've used a piece of Formica. Oh man, that's really torn up.
Formica's much safer.
Maybe Formica's sharp though. You get a small piece of Formica, if that thing catches in your hand, it's gonna do some damage.
Well, question, Steve, what do you think of Sigma?
Well, because if you get the little Formica
The
samples
samples, yeah.
from, you know,
Home Depot.
well,
Yeah.
you can't get them from Home Depot or Lowe's anymore, but you can get them from Menards. Menards has a big wall full of them.
Anybody wants some from my car? Not.
Well, but it gives you something that's, because it's like a credit card, and it gives you something to be able to hold on to and be able to push it into your cut. I don't like the wire because, as he said, if it gets caught on anything, there's the potential of it just spinning around, and, I mean, even if you got wood handles on it, it could break the finger real easy.
There's a little bit of risk, but I will say to you, the Formica, if you're not careful, it'll build up, it changes its thickness, because as you're cutting, it gets that edge going on, and sometimes you have to go back and sand it to get that little sharper edge. Whereas the wire, the thickness stays the same.
And if you're holding the wire like this, and something goes bad, it's gonna pull out of your hand. Depending on the shape of the knob. I mean, if the knob is round, now some people take a dowel and put it through there, that's not good. But if you got something round like this on there, it's just gonna pull out of your hand if it catches on somehow. So
So the $2 I have on mine aren't good then?
no,
I was gonna say,
they're not the best thing. Yeah.
All I've ever seen has been dowels.
That's
So
why it
that's
works
why-
great. You know, I don't wrap mine around either. Well, I do mine, I've done quite a few of them actually. I just go like this right here. I just take and go like this on the top.
Yeah, but
Instead of wrapping it around, that way I don't have to worry about it catching my hand.
yeah, you're right. You don't have to wrap it around. It's just faster when you wrap it around if you got something safe to grab it from. I would not hold that wire when I was doing this. I would want to hold the handle. And again, you know, it's a lot of different ways to get to the same place. Okay, I'm just going to try and clean this up a little bit. Because clearly it's trying to do this with a very dull tool, so. I've got to be out of time by now, right? Yeah, I guess I'm pretty close. Okay, so there you go. Part it off, part it off. I'm not going to do either of those because I'm going to sand it before I do that. And there's your honey dipper. Any questions?
Good job.
Okay. Thank you. The inside of the thing, don't forget, you can use 15-minute epoxy. You can use 5-minute epoxy if you're really fast. I don't recommend it. I recommend at least 15-minute because with 5-minute you're going to brush it on and there's no going back once you go all the way around if you got a problem without mixing up more and doing it again. So do 15-minute. It gives you enough time you can put it on there and get it done. Okay, so if anybody wants to see the rest of this thing, you're welcome to look at it. If you have any questions, let me know.